The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings with you, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain today on the program. God bless all of you, first of all, who are down in Florida and areas affected by these hurricanes that we've been experiencing. God bless you. Prayers are with you. We meet in determined prayer. I promise you that. On the program today, Kamala Harris and her campaign in a panic. Internal polling. This is the private polling that they do internally amongst themselves in their various states and races that they're in. It is not good. The blue wall, going for Trump. I'm going to explain what that means. 3 key states, not for Kamala. Also, my friend Steve Slepcevic, the managing partner, the managing director of a company, Strategic Response Partners, and they are doing God's work in the middle of the storm. Florida, North Carolina, all areas affected, doing what the government can't do. I'm going to show you graphic video and give you an example of what they're doing on the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, The Right Side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready? Let's go.
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right Side with Doug Billings, Right Side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to The Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God. And his divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Right Side. Doug Billings here with you. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am not kidding when I'm telling you this campaign for Kamala Harris, terrible shape. The wheels are falling off the bus, my friends. Internal polling this week, absolutely staggering bad news for them. Before I get into the details about that, I want to tell you about freedomgoldusa.com. freedomgoldusa.com/Doug if you want the really good stuff. freedomgoldusa.com/Doug. Listen, everyone and their brother is talking about investing in gold and silver and so forth, taking pieces of your retirement and investing what you can. These guys at freedomgoldusa.com/Doug, they're going to give you the best deals in the world. They're Christian Patriot owned. Look, you don't have to be rich to do this, folks. You have $500. You want to try to experiment, maybe you've never done this before, they'll guide you through it. They'll ease you into it. No pressure at all. They want to help you protect your wealth, your retirement, your pension, what you've worked hard for. Bidenomics is upon us, the economy falling apart. But even if it weren't, let's face it, it's just smart to invest in the biblical standard of currency, that is gold and silver. So please, to just get some information about this, please, freedomgoldusa.com/Doug. freedomgoldusa.com/Doug. Sign up, get some information, and they'll walk you through this process. The best rates in the market, the best Christian Patriot teams that you'll ever want to work with in any business. I promise you that. Check them out. freedomgoldusa.com/Doug. Thank you. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kamala Harris, some key factors to point out here. All right. This probably won't surprise many of you, but it may. The internal panic that the Harris and Walz campaign is currently going through and that has caused them to cuddle up in a ball on the corner floor is related to several factors. When you think about it, and again, since you watched this program, you're already members of the most intellectually mature audience in all of podcast land. So you're going to be with it, and this will make a lot of sense to you. But the reasons of this rapid decline in the belief of Kamala Harris this demanded belief that was put forth by the hierarchy within their party is coming to an end. There is very little belief left within the party that Kamala Harris can win this election. And there's several factors that factor into this, and I'll just list them in no particular order. Her inability to answer questions during basic interviews, her ability to speak literal paragraphs of words without saying anything. Have you seen her? Her obvious inability to grasp basic concepts about foreign policy, her inability to formulate successful policy apart from that which is already in effect from Joe Biden and that administration. She's not differentiating herself. She's not separating herself from Biden. It's the same old thing. The same. If she's promising that she's going to, and she is, if she's promising that she's going to continue the same policies, look at the state of play in America today. We're in a nightmare. So, and then also another item that's factoring into this is the catastrophic failure on her part to respond to the needs of the American people, especially with regards to these hurricanes, Helene and Milton. And then generally, and not to be cruel, but it's just her general unlikability. Nobody likes this woman. And you shouldn't be surprised about this because nothing has changed since 2020 when she ran unsuccessfully and got absolutely zero support during her first run for the president. No one liked her then. No one likes her now. We've all seen the montage of clips of people not liking her, couldn't believe that Biden chose her. But they can't get rid of her. As I've said a dozen times, they can't get rid of her because she's a DEI hire. Remember, my friends, all of this enthusiasm that you have seen built up around her, it's on the legacy news outlets, it's on all of the social media platforms. Every bit of it is manufactured, and it is then demanded by the radical left liberal hierarchy that the pundits on the legacy news speak it, and the people on social media platforms speak it and put it forth. It is not real. It is not organic. It is completely phony. The support, the enthusiasm that has surrounded this woman. The only reason you see any support at all is because people have so much of Trump derangement syndrome. She struggles so much in legitimate interviews and interviews that are just really pieces of cake, throwing softball questions. She can't even handle that. Recently on 60 Minutes, wow, just absolutely crashed and burned in that interview. So much so that 60 Minutes themselves went back and edited it to make it look more favorable for her because she was so inadequate. She has a total lack of knowledge that she just spews out endless gobbledygook. And she's crashed and burned in so many legitimate interviews that she's got to go on puff piece interviews and, shows that have no political credibility, no objectivity. The View, the Stephen Colbert Show, the Howard Stern Show, all of those things and all of those shows hiding from the mainstream media with regards to giving any press conferences. And even when she does, she gives comments that turn into complete disasters. And it's all catching up with her, which is good news for us. You can't for any durable amount of time disguise an abject lack of ability or an abject lack of qualifications. You can probably hide them for a time, but you can't hide them forever. And it's exactly why at the beginning they would not have her go out and speak, because she's terrible at it. She can't speak extemporaneously. She can't speak without a teleprompter. When she's in a one-on-one interview and she doesn't have notes or someone whispering in her ear, she can't survive. She doesn't know the issue. She is a terrible communicator. I mean, in these interviews, she talks glibly and idiotically about being vice president, as if just throwing out that title should assuage us, should satisfy us. Well, you know, I've been the vice president. I've traveled the world as such. And so you shouldn't have to ask me these questions about what I feel about policy or what I would do in the Middle East. I've been the vice president for the last 3.5, almost 4 years. Folks, name me one thing. Somebody, please, name me one thing of any substance that she's accomplished. Vice president? No. Vice pretender? Yeah. She's pretended very well over the last 4 years. And just this week, as I reported to you, the Communist Socialist, formerly known as Democrat Party, has completed some internal polling, and it is a disaster for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Now, internal polling is always more accurate than what we see out in the public. It's them polling themselves. How are we doing in various states, in various races around the country? And what they found out has sent shockwaves through the Democrat National Party. They are at DEFCON 1 as far as panic is concerned. There's a political analyst out there, Mark Halperin, who has reported that both parties, the Republicans and the Communist Socialists, formerly known as Democrats, are really upping their chances as far as President Trump's chance to win this election. Not only are the bullet items that I just listed a moment ago part of what Mark Halperin sees as the problem, basically to sum up those bullet points, it's basically Kamala's ineptness. She's just not qualified. She's not smart enough to do this job. And so that's what sums up the reason why people are now moving towards Trump. And they have been. It's not as if just now they are. They've been trending towards Trump for the last certainly the last 5 months, if not 6. But she was inserted. She's not tested. She is not someone that they really wanted. She was inserted. Like I said, she's a DEI hire. They can't get rid of her. They're painted into this corner. And so she was inserted at the last moment. And even though she's been the vice pretender for 3.5 years, she's untested. The cameras in the microscope were never on her. I mean, we know that she never went to the border, even though that she was the border czar, that kind of thing. And we noticed from afar that, hey, there's really no news of Kamala. I can't think of anything that she's done as vice president that's worth a damn. And so the fiascos that result every time she sits down in front of a camera to answer questions are only causing concerns, not just amongst us, but amongst them now, too, their own party. The same people that yanked Joe because he couldn't put 2 sentences together are the same people who are going, oh, boy, we're in for it here now. So they're in a mess, and they know it, and it's really glorious to watch. Look, Wisconsin, just as by means of an example. Wisconsin has not gone for a Republican in a long time. And there's a Senate race in Wisconsin that involves their incumbent. Her name is Tammy Baldwin. Now, Tammy is going to be running for her 3rd term, and she's done well. She won handedly her 1st time, 2nd time, 3rd time, and had everyone in Wisconsin, certainly within the Democrat Party, thought that she was going to handedly beat Eric Hovde, who was the Republican challenger up there. But folks, Hovde is in a statistical tie with Baldwin, which is shocking in and of itself in that state, in Wisconsin, because she had won handedly in those previous 3 elections. As I mentioned, Kamala Harris is trailing President Trump by 3 points in Wisconsin, my friends. So this is absolutely crazy if you're the Democrats. What? How does this happen? This is supposed to be one of our sure things, Wisconsin. No Republican has beat us over there in decades in a presidential race. Well, Wisconsin is one of the 3 states that comprises what they call the blue wall: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And every one of them, my friends, every one of them is trending towards Trump. And in Wisconsin's case, going for Trump. Trump's leading in Wisconsin, and he's leading in Michigan and Pennsylvania as well. I've got news for you. So the blue wall is Trump's right now, and he's only got to win one of those states to get the White House, my friends. That's his path. Kamala Harris has a much more complicated path to get to the Electoral College win than Trump does. She needs all three of those states. And Trump's winning at the current moment, leading in those states. How does it happen? Oh, I could, again, that list that I mentioned at the beginning of the show, all of those bullet points. But it's because of all of those points, what we've been made to live in the United States is a nightmare. They have cascaded down upon us a nightmare. And it's causing millions upon millions of people to wake up and think, this is not what I had in mind. I may have voted for Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris, but this is not it. This is not the America I know and I love. I'm going to go, at least this time, for Trump. And so that's why multiple dozens upon dozens of millions of people are going for him, because she's a debacle. She's an absolute fiasco, and she's laughable, and we can tell. There's no amount of makeup you can put on this issue. There's nothing that you can do. There's no way to spin it. She's terrible, unqualified, inept, and America and the world sees it. I'm going to get into some more details, ladies and gentlemen. Please don't forget DougBillings.us, the website, DougBillings.us. It's where I steer you, if you will. It's where my website is, and there's a donate button over there. Look, I never charge you for this program. Please prayerfully consider, though, setting up a monthly recurring donation over there. It's how I provide a living for myself and for my family. It's also how I get you the state of play in America and the commentary on America and the news and the political scene that you will not and cannot get anywhere else. DougBillings.us. Please consider supporting me. Never charge you for the show, so just perfectly think about it. What is the truth and this analysis worth to you? Stay with me. I'll be right back. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings, where I admit it, with a great amount of joy and happiness, I like to point out the intellectual immaturity of liberals every chance I get. All right, talking about campaign Harris and how it is a sinking ship. It is going down. They are in an internal panic because of the internal polling they've done. They look across the state of play in the campaign, especially in states, as I mentioned before the break, Wisconsin, where Tammy Baldwin is in a Senate race and she's losing in a statistical tie, but losing and trending downward. Trump leading Kamala Harris in that state by 3 points and going up, trending up. Trump only needs to win one of those three battleground states that comprise the blue wall: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And with him up by 3 points in Wisconsin, I would like to remind you that Kamala Harris, has no path to the Electoral College victory that she needs without Wisconsin. There is nothing. If she loses Wisconsin, she's out for the count, and it's trending that way. So when you factor in that Senate race, Tammy Baldwin and Eric Hovde up in Wisconsin, it spins these Democrats into a justifiable panic. They are worried, and it's why alarm bells are sounding off in their party. I know you're never going to hear about this on the radical left mainstream media. You won't hear about it anywhere, probably. Newsmax, Fox, probably not even there. But you hear it here from me because I know and I can tell you that this is what's happening within that party. Wisconsin and Michigan, they're looking so much worse for Kamala Harris than they were just 3 weeks ago, actually. The radical liberal movement in America is really a victim of its own propaganda machine because they have been listening to, and more important, I mean, the people out there within the radical liberal movement, they've been listening to and believing their own manufactured and demanded enthusiasm for Kamala Harris. They've been listening and believing their own spin on the truth of it all, the truth of the state of play in America. I mean, that manufactured and demanded enthusiasm flowing like Niagara Falls out over the internet, legacy news, social media platforms, all we hear and see is how brilliant this woman is and how wonderful she is and how much joy and happiness she's going to bring. La-di-da-di-da. And when we see her and when we hear her, when they let us see her and hear her, it's vacancy. It's intellectual vacancy. There is no wit. There is no brain. There is no plan. There is no ability to speak. There is no ability to answer simple questions. All there is, as I said at the beginning, multiple paragraphs of words that add up to nothing, no meaning whatsoever. So as it stands today, and it's incredible, I never doubted this would be the case, and I never doubted that this would be the state of play. As it stands today, Kamala Harris is in danger of losing every battleground state with the exception of Nevada. Every battleground state is up and in play for Trump at this moment. At the end of the day, my friends, this really shouldn't surprise any of us. She's grossly incompetent. She's fantastically unqualified, and she's universally disliked. And no one from The View, no one on the Stephen Colbert Show, not Howard Stern, no other celebrity that they parade out with an endorsement can save her, because none of those people and none of those shows bring anybody new to their movement. You know what I mean? People that would watch and listen to those shows and pay and be in awe of the celebrity class who endorse Kamala, they're going to vote for her anyway. There's no new blood there. She goes on those shows because they are friendly to her. And she's not expected to get philosophical. She's not expected to be smart. She's not expected to be brilliant. She's not expected to put forth anything with any resemblance to intellectual maturity. She's just going to go on there, drink a beer with Colbert, and, talk about nonsense with Howard Stern, who is not relevant in the political arena. None of the hosts are going to do any good for her. She can go on there and make her feel good about herself, I suppose. And her folks will say, great job, great job. But John and Jane Doe and you and me and people that can think, we don't care. And neither do they. And they're sick of it. They see it, and it's laughable. They show up on those shows because those hosts hate Trump so much. They're plagued with Trump derangement syndrome. And for whatever reason, it makes Kamala and the radical left feel good when they're surrounded with people who hate Trump. That makes us feel good. That's our juju juice. She's the most radical liberal candidate for president in the history of the United States. And thankfully for us, she's also the most radically and liberally disliked candidate in the entire history of the United States presidential campaign. So that's where it stands. It's fallen apart for her. We don't become complacent. We continue to get involved on our local levels and keep an eye on our polling stations. Please continue to register to vote, get people out to vote, and remember, we have many more of us today, this year, than we did in 2020. Will they still try to cheat? Yes. They're going to try to get these illegals ways to vote. They're going to try to do what they did. But the good news is you're out there, and I have faith in you. We're going to pull this thing through for us. Trump's going to prevail. On the show today, what I said about Kamala's decline is the lack of response that she's provided as a leader with regards to hurricanes. Steve Slepcevic is going to be on the program in just a bit after this break. He's with Strategic Response Partners. He's the managing director of that organization. They're in Florida right now. Steve and his team, first responders, pilots, former military, law enforcement, they are waiting to provide services and rescue people who need it, to provide food. And they have partners. The satellite phone company has been fantastic. Please support the satellite phone company. They are donating satellite phones. They are taking care of people so that comms are up and not down. And when we get back here, I'm going to talk to you about a GoFundMe page where you can make sure that your money is going right to the victims of this hurricane. I'll have that right when we come back from the break. Steve Slepcevic and his organization doing God's work, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to want to miss this interview. Citizens helping citizens. Neighbor helping neighbor. and they're filling the gap that has been left gapingly wide open by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Also, don't forget, freedomgoldusa.com, ladies and gentlemen, freedomgoldusa.com/Doug. Get information, the cheapest rates. You don't have to be rich. Look, they'll work with you with $500 and they'll walk you through it. They'll ease you into the process. They'll show you how easy it is to protect your money. And we should be doing this anyway. No matter who's president, no matter what the state of economy, you should be diversified into gold and silver. They'll make sure that you get it done the right way. freedomgoldusa.com/Doug. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Side with Doug Billings. As I said, I've got my friend Steve Slepcevic coming on the program. We recorded this interview just a couple of hours ago, and I want to this man and the work that he's doing, and he'll take very little credit for himself, and he'll give all credit to his team. But Steve is the man behind this organization, Strategic Response Partners. They are doing God's work. And I want you to know, I don't take this lightly. This is how it is supposed to be. Neighbor, private industry, taking care of neighbor. The government, the big government, the federal government, really isn't our concern. They have dropped the ball. We, and with the help of people like Steve Slepcevic and his company, Strategic Response Partners, we're getting the help that we need, and these people are in good hands. So without further ado, here is my interview with Steve Slepcevic. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Okay, Doug Billings here, coming to you from smack dab in the middle of the fruited plain, the right side. Don't forget, DougBillings.us. Make sure that you head over there and consider supporting the program, DougBillings.us. We bring you these kinds of things free of charge. Ladies and gentlemen, never charge you for it, but if whatever you can do to support over at DougBillings.us, we appreciate it. And specifically today, I've got my friend here standing by, Steve Slepcevic. Now, Steve is the managing director of Strategic Response Partners, and it's just an incredible company that takes care of, as you would guess from the title of the company, a response team, strategic response to emergencies, to things that are going on, for example, in Florida, North Carolina. He also has Sabre Defense Team, which is a high-end technical security detail and team that has provided support for the likes of Tulsi Gabbard and Russell Brand, just to name a couple. Steve, welcome to the program, my friend.
Thank you, Doug, for having me on your show.
Listen, this is not blowing sunshine up your skirt. You're the owner and a managing partner of one of the most important strategic response teams in this country. You are boots on the ground now with an incredible team that does everything from not only recovery, but preparation for events like we're seeing in Florida. And that means everything from finding survivors, delivering food, wrapping homes and roofs to prevent the weather from harming structures, not just homes, but buildings and businesses as well. I have a feeling that you guys are going by on a very little amount of sleep and a lot of activity down there in Florida, North Carolina, and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of adrenaline, and it's really people like, well, what's your schedule? What's your clock like? I said, well, when my eyes open until my eyes close, it's like you go for as hard as you can for as long as you can. And typically when we're on these rotations, 2 weeks, max 3 weeks, and then we're off the X, right? We push my guys out and then we circle another group in, fresh group, right? And so the rotation continues, because typically what people don't understand is it takes a very special kind of human being to be in what we call the suck, right? You're at ground zero, you're embracing the suck. You understand that it's not about me as an individual. It's about being outward focused. It's about being in service. And I always have to remind people, they're like, sometimes people step into this space like, I want to be a volunteer. I'm in this thing. And even some of the best highly trained first responders, the first time they're out in a major disaster, there's lack of food, lack of sleep. You're in an area that's really uncomfortable. All types of things are breaking down in those areas. It's hot. You don't have an air conditioning, no power. Your water's warm, all that type of stuff. You don't have those luxuries that we're used to at home. And typically after a couple of weeks, these guys' wheels start to come off, the new guys, right? The rookies. And we have to always remind them, look around you to the people that are here on the ground. They're suffering.
Yeah.
They're living with this. You get to go home. So notice yourself, check yourself, and shift your energy outside of you. And that's a big spiritual form of grounding that in our company, I believe I spend more time on character and where they're at from temperature checks, character wise, as one of the most predominant things that I'm looking at. One of the most critical things as to what that person is and what's that package, not just the training, but just as much as the training is what space do you operate from?
And I was just thinking that when you were talking and describing the context and the makeup of your team members, I was thinking exactly, sounds like you're describing a spiritual aspect to the characteristics that these people have got to have as well. Okay, let's get in your company, the recent and the current situation we have with weather in Florida, what we had with Helene and how it affected Florida, how it's affecting North Carolina. How do you get the call? Who calls Strategic Resource Partners to go to work?
So the clients that we do a lot of disaster planning with are your critical infrastructures, right? Your hospitals, your logistics centers, the private airports, the shipping channels that are not federally owned, state owned. It's going to be the private individuals that we go to. And it's typically the critical infrastructure, a lot of logistics centers. These places can't go down. And then we do stuff for a lot of hotels too. Why? They have guests, they're housing the line workers, they're housing the first responders. They're still operating a standalone kitchen. They have backup generation, they have Cat 5 lines. So those are the ones that we typically get a call from. And so when the Hurricane Helene was heading towards Tallahassee, we work with some of the best meteorologists. Why? Because I'm pushing my team of first responders, fuel, power, all the stuff into that area. Some things I'm pushing into these buildings because they have to be able to stand alone and stand on power, especially the hospitals and assisted living facilities. These things can't go down, right? Because some people are on dialysis, some people are on life-saving machines. They cannot go down. And so we usually get in there early, a couple days early, like this last time we were in Tallahassee 3 days before. Hurricane's tracking left, right of Tallahassee. Then last minute, it hits that right, comes across, smashes through Perry. And this is mostly like rural areas, kind of further back, Steinhatchee, which is the same area that Hurricane Idalia went through. And we deployed for that one as well, because many times you don't know. But you can't be like, oh, this is going to happen. Let me wait to see what happens. I know there's going to be devastation. So we deploy each time. And sometimes there's nothing to do. And the mobilization cost for a unit like us is very expensive. But that's just part of the business. So we deployed there. And then I saw the hurricane starting to track up towards North Carolina, right? Into the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I thought to myself, well, that's interesting because I've been doing this for 35 years, Doug. And my thing is studying the weather. It's like the farmer that knows which clouds are carrying the rain because his life depends on it. His livelihood depends on it. And as I started to see it start to make that turn over the Carolinas, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be bad because that area floods through those mountains when you don't have that big a rain. This thing, the amount of rain total that was going to drop on that area. Anybody who's in the emergency management, risk management, we do all scenarios type training. So when these guys get on mainstream news and they say, this is unprecedented, we weren't prepared, we didn't know this was going to happen, I call bullshit. I do, because that's exactly what it is. This is what you do. This is what you train for. This is what we all talk about in the community. So where were your assets staged in the state to push into that region, knowing this was going to unfold, right? So here's me. I'm a small operator. I'm not FEMA. Give me a budget like FEMA, that entire department would have been on the X 3 days before, pushing into it, setting up teams that as the winds were dying down, they were doing rescues. They were nowhere to be found. That's the reality of it. From that time, as the team was pushing up, I flew to DC because we had done the whole security. I was stood on that stage to honor the doctors, the first responders that stood up against the vax mandates, right? These are the ones that lost their jobs. And it was about honoring them, acknowledge them, because that type of character is hard to find.
So what
And
you took time out to go to a conference that you hosted in Washington, D.C. Is that what I'm gathering? Yeah.
Flew in. My team was already set up. The security teams were in place. Many of the firefighters that are on my teams that left the departments because the mandates were the ones carrying the flag, a 15 by 25-foot flag, down the procession. And these guys are a rare form of human being. You got Michael Saavedra, you got George Romero, you got John Knox, you got Sophie Medina, you got all these guys from Bravest for Choice, Firefighters for Freedom. And so as the flag was being folded and we wrapped up, the next day, my team flew back into North Carolina and continued the mission with the mission on the ground. And what was fascinating to me was where I would normally hear, because our stuff is to be in tune with the task force to see who's coming in, how assets are being moved. And just looking around, it didn't look like what we normally used to see, right? 2 days, they're on the tarmac. The third day, they're pretty much out on assignments, right? That's realistic.
Yep.
They're standing up the EOC typically on the first day, and that's locally, and then everything else swells from there. Day 2, day 3, day 4, nothing's moving. We've been there. And as this stuff was unfolding, I already knew in the risk management and disaster response of it, that's my 20, right? That's what I do with my eyes closed, is knowing where to go. And what leads me every single time people say, how did you know to go there? I'm like, you know what? I didn't. I simply tuned into spirit. I'm telling you, God leads us every single day in these moments. And I'm on the phone with my helicopter pilot who flew with us during Hurricane Florence in Wilmington. And that's the place we handled the major hospital, the main hospital for 3 counties. I said, hey, this is a different response. He goes, yeah, it's all mountains. I said, so these people that are going to be impacted and cut off from civilization, they're not getting in there with how they fly in.
Yep. Yeah, you mentioned Steinhatchee. I think I pronounced it the right way. I've got a nephew that lives there, and he was hit just, the last hurricane, and then Helene comes in. His home this time with Helene was just washed off its foundation. They're all rebuilding, and I it's a great community, but he has no kind words for our current administration and their lack of response. Kamala Harris making a speech at FEMA headquarters instead of, flying somewhere just to be boots on the ground, just to show some semblance of empathy with these people. Meanwhile, you've got Trump flying into Georgia and other states, North Carolinas and so forth, on the ground. And there's just a drastic difference. I want to get your opinion. And I don't want to politicize a political storm. My job, what I do on my show, Steve, as you know, I make observations about the state of play in America with regards to politics and social commentary. And
you listen, Doug, you don't have to make it political. I'm going to make it political. Okay. I was a registered Democrat. I've worked these disasters under multiple administrations. I was never political, right? I went from being a registered Democrat, how the system changed and the leadership changed, to being a registered independent, turned Republican. Okay, so here's the reality of it. I operate in a space that you can't make mistakes. People's lives are lost, right? I can't hire DEI people to fill a quota or a need to appease anybody. And when I've been asked about that stuff, they're like, your company? I said, no, we don't do that. I don't care what color, what your sexual orientation is, what your religion is. Man, if you're in that back corner of my 6, I know how you operate, how you function, and you better be spiritually tuned in, because that's what's going to lead you. You know what I mean? And so America saw, and here's the thing, most of the people in North Carolina that live in the mountains, they probably live in the mountains because they wanted to get away from less government, right? They like their rural communities, the private, that homestead. And I'm telling you, we stood up that airport, the first airport, and I'm grateful for the private airport who stood us up and said, yeah, you guys are welcome. We set up a table. My helicopter pilot worked with a couple of key people there, and he ran operations, right? Simple. And he put the call out. And I'm telling you, it was one of the most beautiful things to see. It was like dragonflies coming out of the sky from everywhere, right? Now, some of these pilots, I'm telling you, I don't know where they got the license from. They're a little sketchy. And I'm like, dude, you need to kind of pay attention, right? Because their heart's in the right place. Maybe their piloting skills were, I don't know how they got there, right?
Sounds
But it
like
was like,
sounds like a scene from Independence Day with Dennis Quaid as the pilot. I'm
yeah,
back.
yeah, exactly. And then you have these other guys that are cowboys. They're flying in there and
Yeah,
they're doing, I'm
yeah,
like, dude, stop showboating. Way
yeah.
too many aircraft coming from everywhere, right? And so then we started marshaling it right away. Drop the guy on the runway, run this team on this left side of the runway, and this on the right side. Let's put the birds over here. Make sure they check in upstairs, give their tail numbers, walk over to the table. And there were some amazing people, Doug, that were just scouring the internet, right? And they're like, hey, somebody posted their they haven't heard from their mom. This is where she lives. She's a diabetic. She's going to need insulin, right? There's another person who's on oxygen. There's a person that I've not been able to hit. So welfare checks, right?
Yeah.
So these things would come in. They would do their best to get as much information so that we weren't doing stuff that was redundant, right? And the critical stuff for medical needs step to the front, right? And so what ended up happening is pilot would walk in there, grab the tag off the table, right? He'd see what it is. Oh, it's a medical. Steve, throw one of your paramedics on it. The medical director's like, okay, here you go. Administer. Let me see your credentials. Yes, you guys are all licensed paramedics. Administer it. Here's insulin. Here's IVs. Here's these meds. Here's oxygen that needed. And so what we were doing was we were actually flying with that team, including loading Starlinks into our helicopters, which was amazing because here's Elon, who's a private citizen, saw that immediately the comms were taken down, didn't wait, like, the comms are going out at this storm. So let me go ahead and push this stuff in immediately. Not let me think about it. Let me go through all this bureaucracy. The FEMA department's so swelled and such a bloated type of system of how budgets and who gets what authority. Man, that showed exactly to the people of North Carolina, don't trust in your government, trust in God, because he was the one who put these people through a spiritual connectivity like Starlink, okay, that connected the spirit beings that ascended on that spot, took these missions. They don't know who these people are, showed up. The LZs were typically set up where the fire departments were. And when I say fire departments, a lot of them are volunteer fire departments throughout these mountains. We would drop in there. They would do a quick assessment with whoever the lieutenant, fire captain, whoever that volunteer firefighter was, and then deliver the stuff and then take that information back as to what their additional needs were. And so these birds were flying nonstop missions.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get into a little bit more of that. Also, we're up against a break though. I need to take a quick break, Steve, and you'll be back on the other side with the audience, and we'll talk about some specifics. I'm interested to hear about what you've seen, and we'll wrap up a little bit about the FEMA and the lack of response, but I want to talk about things that you've actually seen since you've been doing this during the time and thereafter of Helene. So ladies and gentlemen, stay with us. Steve Slepcevic, the Managing Director of Strategic Response Partners, is my guest, and we'll be right back after this short break. Stay with me. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. The Right Side with Doug Billings. We meet over here, as always, determined prayer, determined patriotism. That's what we do. Steve Slepcevic, the Managing Director of Strategic Response Partners, also the owner-director of Sabre Defense Team, a high-end security detachment and detail company that provides high-end security for the likes of Tulsi Gabbard, Russell Brand, and others, just to name a couple. Steve, we're talking about your company. First of all, let's make sure people know where they can find you and Strategic Response Partners. Where can they find you?
SRP24.com. Strategic Response Partner, short, SRP24.com.
Great. We'll have that up on the screen as well. All right, Steve. So your boots on the ground. We know the lack of response from FEMA is. This is why I'm so glad that part of Trump's agenda and people like Elon Musk, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, General Flynn, our mutual friend, are going to be in there slashing there. I mean, I'm really looking forward to what RFK Jr. and Elon do with regards to not only health and human services on the RFK side, but the slashing of the bureaucracy that we see with Elon Musk publicly stating that he wants to get in there and help President Trump reduce the redundancies and so forth, just the inadequate amount of surplus I shouldn't say inadequate, but the abundance of surplus that we have with regards to the federal government. I think that part of when we talk about FEMA reducing government and so forth, returning these powers to the states and private industry like you with strategic response partners, we're much better off. I mean, we get a faster response. We're not bloated. We know where to get in and get out. What did you see that we haven't seen? I mean, I've heard that it's just been horrific, and we haven't even scratched the surface as to what's really happened out there.
I'm glad that you brought up, Bobby Kennedy and General Flynn. So we ran into an issue out there, and I'm sharing this time for the first time on this interview, no other interview. And I'm going to get into a lot more details when I speak at the Reawaken America tour coming up soon. I'm flying through that. We had 4 large Hueys that were in a hangar that were secured, and the pilots were in there, and they weren't being flown. And when I went there to talk to the pilots, they're like, well, we want to fly. We just don't have permission from the top. And I'm like, okay. So literally got on the phone. I talked to Bobby. I turned around and I talked to General Flynn. And he goes, I will call you back. And I won't get into the details of who was called. He goes, but let me tell you something, Steve. I'll call you right back. I have a direct connect to the issue. He sent me a message back. He said, let me know if those birds are not in the air in 12 hours. Oh. And this person who he called showed up on the tarmac where we were operating from and point blank asked the questions. Are these all civilian aircraft? I said, yeah, they're all civilian aircraft. He goes, where are the state assets at? And the cameras were rolling, and the guy was about to put the camera down, and that individual goes, no, keep the camera running. Keep the camera running. Whether it's good or bad, the country deserves to hear, right? I said, there was 2 Chinooks that came in today. It's day 7 or day 8, right?
Yep.
Another person made a comment that there was more, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I've been on the tarmac all day. I haven't seen those other assets. Maybe they're further down the runway, but it wasn't at all. And that was day 7 or day 8. Okay. There wasn't an operation going on. And he goes, what would this look like if these independent pilots didn't come here and stand up this mission from the very beginning? And another person who's standing there, who's part of their emergency management, goes, you'd smell a lot more dead bodies. Okay. So I'm going to have to tell you, man, sure as his word is, here's General Flynn, right? Here are these people that are actually doing things to unfree those assets, cutting through the political bullshit. And sure as it would be, that next morning, faithful to his word, the birds were flying. These are bright yellow birds, okay? I sent you a video so you can see that there was 4 of them, 3 in the hangar, 1 outside. Next morning, they're flying. And literally as they're flying, I'm videotaping them, and I send them to Flynn, and I said, it is such an honor. It is such an honor to know you, because now those assets are working and they're saving lives that he will never know. You understand? So there are amazing people out there willing to put it all on the line, but they're the ones that are calling and saying, how can I serve? Yeah. Do you follow?
Yes, absolutely.
And so in our sphere, really fast, we see who are the people that show up. And I want to add something just so you're aware of it. So I've been in the space, like I said, since '89, right? There's a lot of NGOs out there. And I see that after 2 weeks, 98% of them leave. Why? The cameras are gone, the donations start to slow down, and they're gone because they're for the big donations, the camera time, they want to get in front of every TV station. I've never set up a Give, Send, Go, a fundraiser. I'm not a nonprofit. I've never done that in my life. But when this call came and I was heading there with my team, my wife goes to me, how are you going to fund this? Because the big birds are $1,400 just for a tank of gas, right? The smaller ones are $500-600. Maintenance costs on those things are $500, $600. The pilot. And so some pilots came there on their own accord. Some of them covered their own fuel. Many are like, hey, I got the bird, but can you get the fuel? right? So I'm like, yeah, swipe my card, swipe my card, swipe my card, right? Keep the ticket going. And Tina Blanco actually said this to me from the satellite phone store. She's dropping a bunch of phones. She goes, "Can you get these out there?" I said, "Yeah, no problem. I'll hand them to the search and rescue teams because these guys they're not prepared. Even the best guys are not prepared. They're ill-equipped, right? And we're with sat phones. I got my sat radios. We got our Starlinks that we carry with us on our vehicles. I don't get a chance to say we didn't have it. I don't have a budget that's infinite like FEMA does to just make a bunch of mistakes and just keep dragging the shit on." Yeah. And so she goes, "You're forgetting something." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "Are you a believer?" I said, "Well, yeah, I'm a believer." And she goes to me, "Well, God says that if you ask, you shall receive." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, why aren't you asking?" And I said, "Tina, I've always had a really hard time with that." Yeah. She goes, "But this is a different mission. This is not a mission of what you do for critical infrastructure where you're contracted. This is a mission you're going out there that you decided there's a vacuum and you're a solutions guy and you're going to fill a need that others are not showing up for, right?" Yep. And so I did. I set up the Give, Send, Go to offset those costs, right? I don't need money for Hurricane Milton that's coming into Florida because I'm working for commercial clients out here. The governor here, mind you, knows what he's doing. The search and rescue teams, I know many of them are personal friends of mine that we train with, so I know them firsthand. One of them is standing up right now in the EOC, right? So, Sam Eaton's my battalion chief, 30 years in Palm Beach. So Sam Eaton is my incident commander. He is attached to me in these storms side by side. And so when we finished the first airport, we set up a second airport, and then Samaritan's Purse go, "Hey, we do a lot of things good, but we only have one helicopter that we have in the company, and we're not flying it. We don't know what we're doing here. So can you bring a bunch of independent helicopters?" I said, "You know what? We'll be there." And then to see 7 little birds land, our best pilots, we put our best pilots on it that we pushed from the other airports, and we gave them a special mission. You are going to support us with Samaritan's Purse. We set up Operation Starlink with them in their own airfield they have in North Carolina. And the general, there's a 3-star general that works for him. I won't name his name, is an incredible soul. You could see he is spirit led. And to see 5 Chinooks land there, and the fuel that they acquired, loading barrels of 50-gallon drums from one end to the other end, from one end of the thing with generators from one end to the other end, and our team and the volunteers and everybody that's part of Samaritan's Purse in uniform, in unison, collaborating, all in service. My guys are setting up incident command for them, setting up the org charge. My helicopter pilots is covering the whole skies, and Elon Musk engineers are there with their Starlinks and the technicians. They're hopping the helicopter. My paramedics hop in the helicopter. Our private pilots, independent pilots, are flying them, dropping the Starlink guys off. The paramedics doing the assessment, leaving the Starlink guy there, coming back, and we ran a grid to fill in the rest of the blanks. By the end of this week, that entire mountainside will be under comms. That is led by God. Loaded a side-by-side. Black Hawks were landing there. But somebody, again, privately having relationships, saying, "Here's where we need assistance." And so I've seen Samaritan's Purse in international spaces. I'm at the ground, their teams, their medical corps, their whole group. It was an honor. They're like, how do I said, "Listen, I got this. I got donors out there that are supporting my pilots, my gas costs, my logistics costs." I said, "I'm good. God's got us. God's got you. Let's just stand you up and get you operational now." And the way they moved, man, to stand in that Chinook with our whole group, SRP, Samaritan's Purse, and these Chinook pilots, okay? Yep. And the 3-star general praying, all of us holding in the Chinook praying, and praying for the flight, praying for the mission, and praying over these soldiers that are flying, these pilots that are flying these big Chinooks. And one guy turns to me when the prayer was done. He goes, "Wow, that was different."
You see, the radical left can't wrap their head around that, Steve. That's a Christian conservative approach. And gosh, I mean, I tip my hat to you. And I want to, we've got about 2 minutes left. And we'll be showing clips of your experiences down there during this conversation. But look, I want to get your take on this, and I'm just going to ask a direct question. I'm on my show, and I know that you've been not only with what you're doing now in Florida, North Carolina, and so forth, you've also been behind enemy lines, as I say, at the southern border of the United States and into Mexico with your team to try to assess and help and train and recover what the chaos that's down there. My belief is this, that we have this radical liberal movement and agenda in America that creates chaos and crisis purposefully. This is no accident. We can talk about the border. We can talk about Helene and Milton, and their lack of response during these hurricanes or the border. It's purposeful chaos. They want it because in many ways they believe chaos drives people to need big government, and it destroys communities, and it destroys our, this chaos. This is what the radical left believes, that it will destroy the community and the people's dependence on God. Their number one enemy, the radical left. God must be relieved. So you can't have no allegiance to anything except big brother, big government. 2 minutes, your thoughts on that comment.
Well, look at the past several disasters, right? Afghanistan withdrawal, look at Maui. They didn't show up. It was a disaster, right? There's a lot of suspicious stuff that in my entire career, I've started to question. Never had a tinfoil hat. But when I'm at ground zero and I see the narrative completely different from what I see at ground zero, the truth versus what's being shared online, it's crazy. 3 days ago, they came on the local news in here when I was in North Carolina. I'm in Florida right now at ground zero. We're just getting prepped for this incoming hurricane. But I still have my teams up there in North Carolina supporting Samaritan's Purse. So it's interesting because here's the thing. You can see the way this is being done. There's a lot of questions as to what's happening. Right now, you have cadaver dogs moving through that, and that's all search and rescue that are all volunteers, right? The cadaver dogs moving through there. 3 days ago, when they stopped doing the body count, they're like, we're going to stop counting deaths. Well, until we get a better system, they say, to organize it. No, it's political. They don't want that ticker, right? They don't want that ticker on the news. Wait a minute, it's not COVID. Let's scare the shit out of the people. No, that looks bad for us, right? So let's stop the death count until we create a better system. And I'm telling you, all the disasters I've worked in, that as far back as I can remember, the numbers don't ever match what's on the ground. Never. So when people say there's this many more, I'm going to tell you, whatever the news is telling you, listen, they can call, they can come talk to me. And then I'll pull people out that are in those morgues that are actually on these choppers carrying the body bags when the hospitals are running out of body bags. The truth is you're not telling the truth, or you're really slow and very selective of how you put the information out. This was an epic fail on this administration. The first responders are great. When you hear people on the internet, some of this bullshit that's going around, like, oh, the guy flew his helicopter and he got turned away with FAA. No, we're flying all day long, right? Fly proper. Were you providing medical aid and you're not licensed or certified to do that? Were you flying erratic? What was going on? Some of these people are like, oh, FEMA's turning us around. Where are you going? Are you sure it was FEMA? Maybe you went to a distribution center and trying to drop stuff off that they can't take. Maybe it's stuff that was not in canned goods. Maybe you just picked up some stuff from your driveway and neighbors and you brought it in. Don't bring stuff into it unless you have a place to drop it off at a distribution center and they're clear that they need that. These people have all the food delivered to those areas. They're side-by-sides now pushing into it. The off-road community, a bunch of the professionals that we know personally, have also pushed in there to support it. But I'm going to tell you one of the greatest things. The people of North Carolina are resilient. They're the most loving, the most kindest people. They take care of their own. That's America. And if anybody learns anything from this lesson, get spiritually right, get familiar. People are like, what can I do? Go across the street, introduce yourself to your neighbor. Yep. Pick up that tab for the next person. Be kind. And obviously, for what we're headed, no fear, right? Because I have the best trained people, the best equipment. We can get in and out of anywhere, right? But at the end of the day, if I'm not spiritually tuned in, it's an epic fail because God has led me many times. People like, do I go left? Do I go right? What does your spirit tell you? We're going left. Listen to the spirit within you, and you will always, always be taken care of because God will never leave you behind.
Well, let's make sure that on the right side, we always go right. We're spirit led to the right, Steve. Thank you very much. Amen. I appreciate you. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, strategic response partner, Steve Slepcevic, he is one of the good guys for sure. And doing God's work, truly. Steve, I tip my hat to you, and God bless you and your wife, Tracy, and you, and everything that she puts up with and does, and everything that she does for this this joint effort, you and your team, of course, yourself, all of you. God bless you. You're in our prayers. Be safe down there, Steve, in Florida.
We will. Thank you
Yep.
for the prayers.
Yep.
Doug, always great seeing you, and thank you for sharing the truth out there. You know, I got no filters, so you may have to edit a little bit of the.
Oh no. We're gonna leave it up. It's all good with me, brother. That's the raw. That's the truth of it all, and you speak the truth. God bless you, Steve.
God bless you guys. Bless you and your listeners. Have a wonderful day. Bye for
All
now.
right. Goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be back with some closing thoughts right after this. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.
Well, there it was, ladies and gentlemen. Fantastic guy, Steve Slipslovic. Please contribute as you can, prayerfully, of course, but financially if you can, to the websites and the websites that you see at the bottom of the screen and that we've been showing throughout the interview today. The satellite phone company, again, thank you for all those phones that you've donated. Elon Musk and his Starlink Corporation, thank you. Steve and Strategic Response Partners, thank you very much for everything that you've done down there. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a pack of blessings on our back. Believe it. Despite the nightmare, despite the weather, we have a pack of blessings on our back in this republic, and we're going to see them born. Stay in the game. Vote. Get others to register. God bless you. Until next time, for the Republic. Cheers.
The Right Side with Doug Billings.